In this video, we will listen to several data professionals talk about how data engineering has evolved over the past couple of decades.
Compared to 2 decades back, the data engineering eco space or landscape is a totally different one. It's almost unrecognizable compared to what it was 2 decades back. If you look at today's scenario, the sheer quantity of data that we handle today was unthinkable 2 decades back. We also handle with a variety of data and data formats which probably didn't even exist 2 decades back. And 2 decades back, we were not talking about the concept of NoSQL databases, but today we work with a variety of NoSQL databases. And 2 decades back, big data was unheard of, whereas today it is pretty much stable to many enterprises and organizations. One of the major difference that I see between before two decades and now is the expectations from data engineering. They have grown a lot. Today, when a data engineer is given a job, the turnaround time is a lot less. Earlier, we could take days to come back with a solution, but today the expectation is that, okay, we come back with a solution within hours. And today, you cannot run a complete data engineering service without the use of automation tools. So you need a lot of automation tools to make sure that we deliver the data engineering service to the organization.
So I started off in this field almost 25 years ago, and there's been a significant evolution in technology in general, but specifically as data and data technologies and systems are concerned. So for example, with cloud computing, data infrastructure is now available as a service. So a data engineer today needs to do a lot less from scratch. They can spend more time on doing things that matter and less time on setting up and managing these systems. So when I started off in data engineering, it primarily involved using relational databases and data warehouses. Now there's a lot of NoSQL databases and other types of data repositories. Another major evolution has been around big data, and data engineers today need to know how to work with several different big data systems and pipelines. And while there are still specializations, today I think a data engineer needs to know about a greater variety of tools and data systems and how they can be effectively used for solving different types of data problems.
So over the past couple of decades, the way that we handle data has changed very significantly. When I started, it was a very hierarchical approach. There was somebody at the top, an architect, an enterprise architect, a data architect, people who decided how we were going to store data within an organization. Usually there were a couple or three supported platforms, and we stuck to those. That was well defined for us. And over the last 20 years, it's been a very gradual transition from that to a situation where it's much more often that the way data is stored comes to us from a developer. A developer wants it stored in a particular way. A developer has specific requirements. So it's interesting to have the requirements coming from a different direction, and that changes our role a little bit. So instead of making sure that we are really great on those 2 or 3 platforms that were previously defined for us, what we have to do now is we have to take these varying sets of requirements and needs from developers and work with those developers to make sure that the choices they're making are appropriate for data operations, for the long-term use of data and storage of data in a secure and reliable way. So it's more of a conversation in how things happen, and it's much more of a learning expedition for the data engineer to go out and figure out what's the best way to do this new thing that the developers need. What's the best way for me to do this and still have that reliable, highly available, secure data platform that is what the organization really needs.
Data engineering evolved tremendously in the past couple of decades. When I started 15 years ago as a database administrator, data engineering was not that hot topic. There were data engineers, but it's a full-on, very hot requirement these days. So the reason for this is it's basically the evolution of different kinds of data sources. For example, now we have Internet of Things, related data, all these sensors related information being fed into these various kinds of data sources, and API feeds from Twitter, weather APIs, you name it, and everything interconnected. As a result, the need for a variety of data sources evolved. So for example, you have relational databases from for a long time, for maybe 4 or 5 decades. Now you have column stores, wide column stores like Cassandra or HBase, and key value pair databases, Hadoop for big data, document stores like MongoDB or Couchbase. So as a data engineer, you need to be familiar with all these kinds of data sources. With the evolution of data sources and the variety of the data engineering role evolved significantly over the past couple of decades.
I have only worked in data engineering for 2 years, so I can only share what I have learned or I have observed during the past 2 years. I think traditionally data engineering focuses a lot on database management, ETL pipelines, and data visualization. While in recent years, I have seen a lot of more and more demand for data engineering to understand distributed computing and DevOps, and to implement machine learning models and so on.